The very late evening to some of you. Mr. George Cow, I think, comes from the most extreme end. It's such a great pleasure to have all of you with us at this very special event. When the world is celebrating its Tourism Day, World Tourism Day, 27th of September, UFTAA is truly, truly delighted to be connected with all of you. I am Sunil Kumar. I am currently the president of UFTAA, and I must take this opportunity to welcome every one of you, particularly the members who are the key members of this evening, our speakers. We have three outstandingly brilliant speakers. I will talk about them before they speak. But for me to commence this discussion, allow me to present before you Mr. Fernando Campion from Mexico, but you could call him, he lives in Canada, but he's from Mexico and he's the boss of entire Latin America. We have Patricia Shahin, she's from US, native of Dominican Republic. And of course, we have a very leading champion of China, Mr. George Cow, who's from Dragon Trail. Adding on to our speakers list are two other very special people. The Vice President of UFTAA, Mr. Yossi, who's got enormous experience with IATA tourism and has been a front runner for UFTAA for several decades now. And of course, we have our president of the largest UFTAA association. The largest UFTAA association is from Turkey, TURSAB. And in one association, we have 11,000 plus members. So you can imagine how big that association is. For the benefit of all of you, UFTAA is in its 56th year ever since it began. And we have been actively involved with several initiatives, not only IATA UFTAA diploma that all of you are aware. For a very long time to come, if somebody wanted a tag that I'm a qualified IATA specialist, then you need to be awarded a diploma by IATA, which was called the IATA UFTAA diploma. And that is the diploma that you would have possibly come across, and that was an UFTAA-initiated educational initiative. UFTAA currently is in 75 countries of the world, and I'm extremely delighted that today we bring before you a very important subject called rejuvenating travel and tourism. We're talking about both. We're talking about travel and we are talking about tourism. The schedule for today, dear friends, would be that I have a small opening, which I'm currently doing. Thereafter, we would have the introduction of the UFTAA board. We would have the introduction of the key speakers. We would have the curtain riser by our Vice President, Yossi Patel, who would be talking about trends post-COVID as we presume at UFTAA. Then we have a small video presentation by the president of TURSAB, Mr. Firuz. And then, of course, our three speakers. Interaction continues to happen throughout. We have enough time for a question and answer session. It's our belief that this event would go on for 90 minutes. But if there are more questions and interactions coming in, we are more than happy to allow more interactions to happen. I would like to take this opportunity once again, ladies and gentlemen, to share with you that UFTAA has a board comprising of members from different countries of the world. We have three vice presidents. One of the vice presidents, Yossi, if you can spot them, you could spotlight them, is Yossi Patel, who's our vice president. He's heading IATA matters, airline matters. We also have with us Mr. Çetin Gursun. He's from Turkey. He's our vice president, tourism. I'm trying to see where I could see him, spot him in these 80 of them. And we have our vice president, finance, and he comes from Sri Lanka, and he is Trevor Rajaratnam. So these are the three vice presidents of UFTAA, ladies and gentlemen. We are led by a very outstanding board. We have with us in our board Allow me to spotlight them as I go one after the other. This is Varsha Ramcharan. She is from Mauritius. Welcome, Varsha. It's such a great pleasure to have you with us. Then we
it's
also
a pleasure to be here.
We have with us Muhammad Wanyoki, and he is from Kenya. He's the president of the Kenya Association. We have with us I'm just going by the order that I have with me so that it's easier for me to present them before you. Allow me to spotlight Mr. Achyut Gurgain. He is aboard in YT and he comes from Nepal. Thank you very much.
Hello.
For joining us. Then
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. We have with us some more board members of UFTAA. I have seen our friend from Benin, Richard Lohento. Richard, allow me to spotlight you, please. Richard Lohento comes from Benin. We have with us Adriana Maiori. She comes from Italy. We have with us Mr. Joe Olivier Borg, and he comes from Malta. We have with us the Secretary General of a very large association of China Cats. And of course, we have Mr. William de Souza from Canada. William, I thought I saw you before. Where are you, William? And William's from Canada, and he's a part of the board. Well then, dear friends, without much ado, allow me once again to congratulate every one of you on this very special day, the World Tourism Day. I've never seen so much of fervor in the world. I see so many seminars happening since the last 2 days. They continue till the 1st. It's possibly because people are so optimistic. All of us are looking forward to see how we can all create a better impact. And today is looked at as possibly a good luck day for us, a good luck day for the industry. And this industry needs a lot of enthusiasm. And I think today's session will possibly provoke us, not only in the areas of how big is the boom gonna be like, how long will it take, but how prepared are each one of us. To be prepared, to be proactive, to encounter the success of what can happen from now is going to be a very, very important aspect. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this great event. And I would now invite our Vice President of UFTAA, Mr. Yossi Patel, to kindly join us and do the curtain riser. But before that, I spot Trevor, our Vice President Finance, and allow me to spotlight him. Thank you, Trevor, for joining us. Trevor from Sri Lanka and has been the president of the Travel Agents Association of Sri Lanka as well. Hello, over to you, Yossi. Yossi, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do you want to start with the video from Turkey, or you want to do it after my presentation? Sunil? All right.
Yossi, you have both the options with you. Go ahead, whichever way you think is right.
I'll do it in the end of my presentation. Let me just share the screen for a sec. Sorry, it's going to take one more minute. All right. I'll be very brief as I was requested by the president. I'm going to talk a little bit not about trends and talk about things that are far from us, but I'll try to see what is the to-do list or the things that we can do immediately at our small businesses for the times to come, even though nobody really understands what is gonna be next. Of course, we understand the situation is very complicated. The one thing that the world is starting to understand, there is no immunity actually. The vaccination is not a really vaccination, which complicated things. What I'm trying to say here that it's going to be probably different. We are not going to be on the same page, just coming back slowly. And I see many predictions that say that in 2024, we'll come back to the same level of activities we had in the 2019. This is not the case. It's going to be totally different. The coronavirus is what is known as the perfect storm, and perfect storm create new possibilities, but it create also new reality. The play field will going to be probably very different. I'll touch to it only in a few words, but we have to understand it. That things, I mean, the problem is us that we are not used to be changed, but the reality and the world and our industry are going to be changed for sure. If there is one thing that I think it is highly important to understand, all of us in this room, the world in general, our business partners and the suppliers that we are working, we are a post-traumatic stress disorder. This is something that you cannot realize, see, and sometimes to understand with your eyes, but it's there. The more you understand it, the better your function going to be. We already see what is happening around the world in planes, in airports, in many cases. You see the stress all over. Now, even if you are not seeing it, you must appreciate that our customers are, when they are traveling with us, it's not going to be the same. They have a different way of thinking and behaving, and we need to take this into a consideration when we are building or rebuilding our relationship, and I will touch on this in a minute. Now, IATA Airlines, agents, and all there is dramatic changes coming on this field. It's not going to be the same, because what will lead the new rerouting of where airlines will fly will be two factors mainly. The leisure travel and the cargo travel. We already understand now that the business travel, they are not coming back to the same level because they understand they can do it with less trips. And the business sector was the highest yield management in our business. So we have to understand that the business, it's not going to be the same. The routes not going to be the same. And the way we worked before probably will be influenced a lot because of this changing industry. One more important issue with regards to the airlines. They are poor, they are angry, they are eager for cash and credit. And if in this very happy day of celebrating the Tourism Day, we need to throw few definitions that we would like to use when we are talking there. There is no partnership, there is no friendship, there is no history. They are after operation. Government are still subsidizing some of the activities. By the end of this year, it's going to be end for most of them. They're going to be, they have to, by the way, be very nasty with the ADMs, with penalties, paying back, and not with money, but with vouchers, so on and so forth. So with regards to the relationship that we have towards the airlines, and you know, we are sitting in the PAP GJC meeting, myself and few of the board members, and we see each and every meeting how they are tightening or they are going after the guaranteeing or securing the money that we need to transfer them, and our initiative that they need to protect us and the customers is still being talked for a year and a half with no outcome. The president and myself, we offered to the airlines to move to the zero risk environment, meaning in each and every point, no one will owe money to anyone. Of course, they refused. That point, we understand that actually, when they want the money ahead in time, actually they are consuming credit. They are not guaranteeing money. They're getting the money in advance few months. That way, they get the credit for things. The situation is also getting worse. So I would put attention on this one very much. It's not going to be the same. And the other thing with the airlines, we see that they are promoting very aggressively the Go Light agents. It's an agent that pays you go. And we're going to see more of them coming into the industry. And I believe there will be at least a third of the market will be these Go Light agents that they work differently, and they will influence our business for sure as well. I'm not going to talk about trends. I'm going to talk about changes that I think we should do immediately, or we can do, must do, considering to do in our business, if we want to change it. Because in my feeling, we're still waiting and not doing enough. Direct marketing is going to be a huge wave. Of course, it's coming from the airline sides already. But because of the instability of many manufacturers that either providing products or services, they want to have a control on the product or the service. They don't want to have the middleman in between. And I gave in the past the example of Nike and also many others. So the more we understand that this wave is coming, I think we need to do it, first of all, ourselves. Our skills in marketing should be enhanced much more than they are now. So direct marketing, it's a mark that you need to put to yourself. In this world, and we said it before, but it's become more crucial. Personalization is the name of the game. If we spoke about post-traumatic customers and markets, being personalized, something that we don't do very much or good as travel agent, is the name of the game. If you are talking to different customers in the same language, same documents, you are in trouble. So this is another highlight I want to emphasize to all of us. We need to practice and be much more personal and speak. When you speak, you need to speak only to me. You need, in this world, especially when I have uncertainty, I'm not sure, I'm not secure, so on and so forth, I want to know that you're taking care of me, not to all of your customers. There are many cheap ways to do it. I'm not going to drill down to them, but this is a highlight you need to realize. Now, technology. I think before the pandemic, we all felt threatened by technology, and the buzzword that the technology is actually replacing us. Well, technology is changing its role also in our market. It's not replacing us. The opposite. We have a huge opportunity to take over back if we will manage the personalization relationship I'm going to mention in a minute. Technology in enhancing processes, automation. If you look into your business, how many transactions don't need a human being to do so? And this is where the world is going like crazy with robotics and many other systems. Technology will promote automation, efficiency, saving money. So we need to look to the areas where technology cannot replace us. One of the best applications in the world is the human being, and this is where we are. But you know that we are not managing our business with, let's say, high-level automation using technology tools. And this is something we need to. Now, this is difficult, but it can ensure that we will stay on business. We need to move from managing reservation and operation to managing relationships. And we know that managing relationship is not easy, but that way customers will stay with us if they will feel that we have this bonding something and it's personalized. It's not like you buy and you leave my office and I don't want to hear from you again. And if you put the glasses on the business saying, how can I manage the relationship with my customers, not how I'm operating or managing their reservations. This is highly important in my view. Now, I've talked before about the CRM, and I think that whoever not going to put the CRM systems in the center of the business that will help them to manage relationship and customers relationship, doing a huge mistake. Because already now, reservation through the internet, it's much more friendly and there are much more possibilities that we have in the GDSs. Because of the direct marketing I mentioned before, sometimes airlines are not putting all the seats available to us in the GDS, and they are doing it directly only in the internet, in their websites. You know, they're saying that you can manage manually maximum 150 relationships. When it comes to customers, it's much more difficult. Without a system that will help you to do that efficiently, I think if we are predicting what is going to happen when the world will come to some new normal, without this tool, I think we're going to be in trouble. Creating and selling experiences. Now, we've mentioned it many times before, but now more than ever, with this wave of direct marketing, I mean, we see how this world is being managed by emotion. I'm going to touch it in a minute. But if I'll have to wrap it in one word, if it's not packaged, bundled, don't sell it. Because if it's only a hotel or only a flight tickets, if it's not something that bundle, package into experience that I'm doing through the personalization process I've mentioned before, this, I believe, is the major way to move forward and stay in business, especially in the reopening when everybody feels insecure and they want to make sure that something holds their hand while they're traveling. Creating experience is also the best way to do money, because there the issue of commissions, and I'll touch on it in a minute, is less important. Right now, they are talking about emotional economy. Emotional economy meaning it's not transactions of reservation and money and travel documents or whatever. You need to put emotion, and we know that emotion is managing the world, by the way, not for the good. I mean, the world gone crazy. We say something about that the emotion is running the world and not logic. So we need to understand how we can manage emotion, how we can use them to make money and manage emotion with our clients. We need to be ready. We need to understand it. But this is a segment that is thriving in the economy, which brings me to the second point, which is storytelling. If I need to put it in one word or one sentence, you need to speak to your customers through stories. Tell a story. Don't give information. Don't send Excel. Don't give details. You need to tell a story. People love stories. See what stories can do in the internet. If the story is good, you have a sale. But you need to know how to tell a story. And the people you are hiring need to know how to tell stories, which can also bring in the issue of the emotional and the issue of managing relationship. Through the storytelling, we can engage the economy. Transparency, and I'm in the last couple of slides. When was the last time you went to buy something and you didn't know how much it's going to cost you? Customers before the pandemic didn't know how much money we are making. Unless we charge some service fee, but the issue of commission was, in today's world, if I'm selling experience, if I'm packaging everything, I need to be transparent what I'm selling to the customers, how much it's going to cost them, so on and so forth. So transparency is another layer. Now, we know climate change is a big issue. It's not far away. When we're giving a service to a customers, we need to make sure that he knows that we took him to the hotel that doing less harm to the environment, for example. And you assure him it's not only the price. I'm taking you to a site or hotel that is contributing or not harming the environment. While we are speaking and talking right now, there are some baby business persons out there who are ready to take over because they don't need to fix their behavior like us. They will start new businesses. And of course, after this perfect storm, the big players will be different from the one that we know today. If we will adopt this behavior of babies, we might have a chance. If we only try to fix ourselves and not adopting to the new reality, I think we are in trouble. All in all, what I'm trying to say here, let's stop waiting and start doing. Thank you very much. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Yossi Patel, for that introduction, for having done the curtain riser. Well, dear friends, the purpose of today is not just to look at what happened in the past and how badly it happened. The purpose of today is how optimistic are we about tomorrow? What kind of trends do we see taking place in the arena that all of us belong to? And importantly, most importantly, how well are we prepared with? Allow me at this point of time to quickly share with you or recognize a few of our leaders who are present here. We were earlier talking about a board member, Wilhelm de Souza, and here he is. I have the pleasure of spotlighting him today. Thank you, William, for joining us. We have Ken Banda. Ken Banda is from Malawi. Ken, thank you very much. You're coming with a very good delegation from Malawi here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of our speakers, a brilliant guy, Mr. Fernando Campion, and he's there with us. We move on to more key leaders who are present with us today. Alex Jacob is from Travel Shore, and he's the advisor of UFTAA for IT matters, and we are so delighted we have him with us. We have Constantine, and Constantine is from Monaco. Thank you, Constantine, for joining us. Constantine also has a very successful company in Monaco. We have with us amongst our leaders, somebody many of you must meet today. He is Abhilash Raju. He's one of the 3 adjudicators of IATA. IATA has 3 travel agency commissioners, and he is joining us. And then, of course, let me continue with our introduction. So somebody who's on. Hello, can you please mute yourself? Hello, can you please mute yourself? Yossi, I don't know if it's coming from.
מתי זה יצא להערכתך?
Yossi, can you please mute yourself? We have with us Mr. Mr. Joe Olivier Bob, who's from Malta and also a board member, past president of UFTAA. Thank you, Yossi, for joining us. Thank you, Joe, for being with us. We have Mr. Mustafa. Mustafa is the president of the Travel Agents Association of Tanzania. Thank you very much, Mustafa Bhai. We also have with us Mr. Armando, somebody all of us must be a very popular person, all the way from Mexico. He is the president of Actual, and Actual has about,
Thank you very much.
Actual has about 22 countries with them, all Latin American countries, a very large tourism organization. Thank you for joining us. We have Mr. Wilhelm Brown. He's from Sri Lanka. He's been a past president of the Sri Lankan Travel Association. We would continue our introductions by taking you on to someone who's not yet been introduced till now. From Qatar, we have Ayman Al-Khudwah. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. It's such a great pleasure to have you with us. We have also with us, I've already done Mr. Muhammad Wanyoki. We have Mr. Murtaza Kalender, another member of UFTAA, all the way from Turkey. Thank you, Murtaza, for joining us. We have with us, Mr. George Cow, one of our speakers for today. Thank you very much, Mr. George Cow, for joining us today. Allow me to spotlight you, please, Mr. George Cow. Well, it's tough managing a very, very large audience. We are 100 of us almost with us. We have again Mr. Rodney De Cruz. I don't know why the spotlight button seems to be loaded. We'll remove the spotlights and come back to you. Allow me to take this opportunity. I'll come back to the introductions once again. The countries registered today are 34 of them. Allow me to congratulate and welcome delegates from Antigua, Barbuda, from Austria, from Bahrain, from Belgium, from Canada, from China, from Cuba. You see a great friend, Gustavo, there, from Egypt, from France, from India. We have a large delegation from India. Thank you, Tai. We have from Israel, from Italy, from Kenya, from Malawi, from Malta, from Mauritius, from Mexico, from Monaco. We have delegates from Nepal, from Nigeria, from Pakistan, from Paraguay, from Philippines, from Puerto Rico, from Qatar, from Somalia. Somalia recently did, before the COVID, they did the other side of the world. Tourism was their theme. And then we have from Sri Lanka, we have Sudan, we have Sweden, we have Tanzania, we have Turkey, we have Uganda, we have United Arab Emirates and United States. I must mention to our delegates that the three large associations in UFTAA, number one is Turkey with about 11,000 members. We have Nigeria, which is about 4,500 agents. And we have from India, Thai, about 3,000. So from our top three associations, we have about 18,000 companies who are members of UFTAA. This is what it is all about. Yossi, shall we now start off with the president of TourSAB in a couple of minutes, connecting with us via the video. Over to you, Yossi. Yossi.
क्या चाहिए?
Yossi, there's no audio, Yossi.
I'm running it again.
Okay, thanks, Yossi.
Distinguished President of UFTA, esteemed UFTA members, dear colleagues, I would like to start my remarks by congratulating our World Tourism Day. As it's known, the pandemic emerged beyond all plans and forecasts, has had dire effects. Distinguished President of UFTA, esteemed UFTA members, dear colleagues, I would like to start my remarks by congratulating our World Tourism Day. As it's known, the pandemic emerged beyond all plans and forecasts, has had dire effects on the tourism industry. The successful progress in tourism has been replaced by a very sharp decline. Esteemed colleagues, as vaccinations become more widespread, global tourism still needs crucial actions to be taken in order to take a leap forward. The pandemic period has, on the other hand, very clearly showed that travel and tourism are integral parts of economy. Both the public and the private sector have fully comprehended the importance of tourism through this period. We have all come to appreciate how precious the freedom of movement is in the globalizing world. The advancement of tourism holds great importance not only to keep the wheels of economy turning, but also to maintain world peace. In this respect, both local governments and us have great responsibility. For this reason, it is also of great importance for us to adopt a nature-friendly and sustainable tourism approach. As tourism professionals, we have done our share in the fight against the pandemic and will continue to do so. As we set out to re-establish the future of tourism, we should act in unity and solidarity, be transparent, and take heed in exchanging information regarding emerging tourism trends and consumer demands. In order to prevent the information pollution, the speedy transmission of accurate information to consumers is essential. We fully believe that UFTA, which we are very proud to be a member of, will take on a very important mission in this regard. We are committed to build a brighter future for our sector by joining hands. As I conclude my remarks, I most cordially congratulate the World Tourism Day with the hope that today will be a milestone for the recovery and growth of tourism, and once again, greet you all with respect.
Thank you very much, President Firuz Baklikaya. Ladies and gentlemen, UFTA, just prior to the pandemic, we had launched our Global Tourism Office, a very beautiful building in Istanbul. And it's our desire to create an UFTA Global Connect, where agencies from all over the world would be offered the opportunity to remain connected on a tourism platform. And supporting this office would be a very large e-platform as well for people to interdepend on one another. And TourSab has been a super help to all of us to get that tourism office happening. And we look forward to very quickly starting that office and getting closer to people of the world. Thank you very much, President Firuz, for your opening messages. I would now like to take this opportunity to present our speakers with you. Allow me to first call upon and introduce to you a very outstanding gentleman. I met him in Cuba. It was in 2018 when I was there, and there was a very large conference of MICE. This Cuban convention I'm talking about is the annual actual convention, which had about 600 plus delegates from 22 countries of Latin America. Plus they had US, they had Turkey, they had India, they had a few other countries as well. And Mr. Fernando Campion was someone who was driving the MICE activity there. Our speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is considered one of the most knowledgeable and influential leaders in tourism and the most influential in meeting and events industry of Latin America. He's the author of 6 books and one of the most prolific travel writers in the world with over 5,000 articles. Can you imagine? He has authored and published 5,000 articles, including as a guest columnist for Forbes Mexico and Newsweek Mexico. Allow me to present before you our speaker today, Mr. Fernando Campion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. I must start by saying that we are better off this year than we were last year. Remember last year, we were celebrating this same day with no tourism at all, almost everywhere in the world. Things are different right now. Yes, it has to do a lot about the vaccination and, you know, countries and cities opening up more and more. Let me also say that my perspective is on Latin America. And as you probably know, Latin America is comprised by 33 countries. We're talking about the Caribbean, Mexico, Central America, and all of South America, where we speak Spanish. So I took a sample of this, probably the most relevant that would give us some perspective on what's happening in this area of the world. And one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of this has been opening up little by little. And I used around 10 countries as samples in this area. The Caribbean, I took Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. Mexico, of course, as Mexico is the 6th most visited country in the world. So it represents a very good idea of what's happening in this area of the world. And as you know, Mexico is competing as the 6th most visited country in the world with Turkey. So we are there together, pretty much receiving the same amount of visitors from other parts of the world. And then, of course, in South America, I took Ecuador, Colombia, Argentina, and Brazil. Chile in a separate way as well. And yes, well, anyway, so let me tell you that to begin with, everything is pretty confusing because every country has its own restrictions and they are changing every day. So the platform in which we are trying to do business is moving all the time. So it's not stable at all, but definitely it's getting more stable than it was just a month ago. And that's how fast things are moving in this area of the world. To tell you some examples is the moving forward as we are, because this is a positive sign that all of these countries are moving forward, opening their doors. And many of them, of course, still have restrictions. But that's restrictions is much better than not even no entry or banning countries from people from other countries visiting their country. So even with these restrictions, it's much better off than no visitors at all allowed while the pandemic was going on. And another thing that I noticed is that many of these countries, most of these countries, the vaccination rate is still very low. So the herd immunity is not happening yet. Nevertheless, many of them have over around 50% of the population of those countries being doubly vaccinated. I'm talking Puerto Rico, 69%, the Dominican Republic, 68%, Mexico, 31%. It's a huge country with over 130 million people. That's why it's so slow. The vaccines are not coming in most of the countries. They are coming in very slowly. And that is what's holding the development of tourism around Latin America. Ecuador, 52%. Colombia, less than 50% have been vaccinated of their population. Argentina, around 52%. Brazil, less than 50%. And the one that is outstanding is Chile from the very start, 73%. So you would say, well, those countries that have more people vaccinated, doubly vaccinated, would open their doors quicker than other countries that have less vaccination. Well, it's not so. And a very good example of that is Mexico, where only 31% of the whole population has been vaccinated. Nevertheless, Mexico has opened the door to all of visitors. And we are seeing, even with this percentage of people being vaccinated, 31%, our contagious disease is going down. And the same is happening with other countries. Puerto Rico has seen less people being contagious. Dominican Republic also is down. Mexico, even with that, is down. Ecuador is down. Colombia is down. Argentina is down. Chile, of course, is way down. And the only one that seems to be going up is Brazil. And this is why in other countries around the world, Brazil is not, or Brazilians, I should say, are still being restricted to visit other countries, including in that area of South America. So this is what's happening around. Now, in regards of how we are doing in tourism right now, well, most of the countries, I would say they are in red, meaning that they have not enough visitors as they used to have previous to 2020. So Puerto Rico is still in the red. Colombia is still in the red. Argentina is still in the red. Brazil is still in the red. And the only one that is green at this moment is Mexico. And the reason being, it is because we pretty much never close our doors. We're restricted, yes, how to get together in restaurants, in hotels, and of course, meetings and events were very restricted. Yellow, Ecuador and Dominican Republic are starting to grow as they open up to tourism, international tourism. Definitely, they are receiving more and more visitors. So Mexico and the Dominican Republic are fed by the American visitor. So this is why Mexico is having occupancy percentages as high as previous to 2020. So this is a very unique position that Mexico has right now, receiving most. I mean, we opened the doors in Mexico to everybody who wanted to visit, with restrictions in regards of meetings and events, in the amount of people that can get together. Now, other countries are opening up, and most of them are requiring full vaccination or PCR tests, and most of them are open. That's what it's pretty much happening around Latin America. They're opening up. They are putting some capacity of meetings and events at 50 to 75% of the capacity of the rooms. Some of them are, depending on the area of the country, they are requiring also a maximum of 250 to 500 people in the same room together, all of them with masks. All the countries are requiring masks, the same protocols. It is confusing, but it's opening up little by little. Most of the countries that are opening up, they expect to have a November, December, January through April better tourism activity than, of course, the previous year or the previous months. Now, I think the middleman would be very active nowadays. If I am a travel agent, I would be very active in the near future, because for the traveler itself, trying to travel by themselves would be very confusing with all of this information coming from different countries. Even locals don't know what's happening in regards of what are the restrictions of coming from other countries. So I would say travel agents would be really handy to try to put everything in a good perspective for the traveler from other countries. Now, I must say that it's impossible to generalize right now. And with this, I say that things are moving really quickly. I think we're going to see a very good 2022, and definitely, if nothing else happens in the world, 2023. And we see this as we also are noticing that more airlines are putting more flights into destinations that in the past did not have or were completely out of flights from other parts of the world. So this is also growing. We can see that. We see news almost every single day about airlines flying to the destinations that in the past were closed, like Panama, like the Dominican Republic, like Colombia, and so on. So in my view, I think the champagne effect, it is coming. People are absolutely, urged to and eager to travel again and enjoy and spend more money than previous years. So this is what I have for you. I see positive signs. We are looking at them, we are feeling them, and definitely things are moving forward in the right direction for Latin America.
Thank you, Mr. Fernando, for your very illustrious talk. May I ask you on behalf of our delegates, you've done a lot of research in North America and South America. When do you think would be a ballpark, presuming that there's no further, strengthening of the COVID or the pandemic? When do you think we could see 2019 come back to this world again?
That's a very good question. And you know what? It depends. It depends in the high seasons of every country, when they are opened up completely, even with some restrictions. It could happen this winter for Latin America, especially for the northern parts of Latin America, because of the North American market coming from the US and Canada. They definitely enjoyed the warm weather. So they flock to the Caribbean islands, they flock to Mexico and Central America, and even South America, as far as Ecuador in South America, Colombia, because these are warm weather countries. The other way around, we're talking about the Southern Hemisphere in our vicinity here, it's the other way around. Next summer would be high season for them, for Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and all of these countries way down south. So we're going to see different behaviors in that respect, I think.
Another question, and then we'll come back to you with the audience questions as well, Mr. Fernando. Latin America was always dependent a lot on their internal tourism within Latin America. A lot of tourism coming in from the US, and there was equally a good amount or good percentage of tourism happening, particularly from different parts of the world with focus on Europe. Now that has stopped in a large way. Now, how would you see the current Latin American inflow? Is it purely local within Latin America? When I say local, do you continue to have the American visitors come in? And what about the rest of the world?
Absolutely, that's a very good question. And let me say that Latin America, as most of the countries were emerging destinations in their economies. So they've grown quite a bit, which means that also the more people have more money in their pockets than in the last 10 years. And we were dependent on that growth, the economic growth, and that has been happening. So this is why Mexico and other countries have been favored by Latin American travelers going into Mexico, the Central America, and other parts of it. So there is a lot of movement going on, and we expect that to keep on growing as the economy comes back to a normalcy, let's say. So definitely the economy is hand in hand with the flow of tourism around Latin America, indeed. And Europe, definitely. Remember that Mexico, as other countries, we are a very unique country with so much tourism to offer, so many sites, and for everyone, for every pocket, for every budget. So definitely Europeans are very keen. We're talking about the UK traveling to Mexico and Latin America. The Caribbean islands have also become very, very popular within the European community. So we expect to have that back as soon as the vaccination grows, and it's growing pretty rapidly in many respects.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll stay back and allow others to ask questions, but thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Fernando. It's such a great pleasure. It's too early in the morning for you, and you continue to be with us. We are very, very grateful to you. Thank you very much, sir. And allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to quickly present you some of those leaders that we were not able to do that before. We have with us, Mr. Birger Beckman. Mr. Birger Beckman's been a very leading luminary in the industry, particularly in the field of IATA He's been an executive administrator of UFTAA for a long period of time. He's very actively associated with the World Association and has been a very strong partner with UFTAA in allowing us to tie up with dot travel. And the future seems to be dot travel. The .com, .net has to someday get replaced by dot travel for travel professionals. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Mr. Beckman. Thank you very much. We also have with us some very leading speakers and leaders from all over the world. We have from TAI, the Secretary General of TAI, we have Mr. Lokesh Betaya. I did mention to you, TAI is the third largest member association of UFTAA. And thank you, Mr. Lokesh, for having got a very large delegation attend this event. Allow me to take you to a few more leaders who are with us today. We have,
pleasure, Mr. President.
Sorry, yeah, thank you very much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We also have with us Mr. Rodney DeCruz. I see him here. I hope he's on. He's going to be unmuting his video. He's heading IATA India, a very, very supportive leader to the industry. We have with us Mr. Numan Ulkar, who's also a very, very active member of Turkey. Thank you very much, Numan. And we have from Egypt, we have some very distinguished leaders from Egypt. Yousefa Salama, who's the general manager of Egypt tourism operations. Thank you very much. And of course, we also have Mr. Hani Peter. Thank you very much, Mr. Hani Peter. I'll keep coming back to the introductions as we move on. I see Miss Nisha Verma here. And Miss Nisha Verma is representing the Trav Talk, a very popular media magazine of India, a media channel of India. They're very active on videos. Thank you very much, Nisha, for joining us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to connect with you to our next speaker for today. And he is from a different part of the world. We've been talking about Americas. Now let's go to the Asia, the kings of the world. When you talk about tourism, they've got such large tourism numbers that every country of the world wants a share of that tourism. And I have great pleasure presenting before you our speaker, Mr. George Kao. Allow me to talk briefly about him. Mr. George Kao is serving as the Chief Executive Officer of Dragon Trail Interactive, leads the company with more than 20 years of experience in the travel and technology industries in China and in America. An accomplished entrepreneur, Mr. George previously founded 2 meta search engines in the Silicon Valley and Beijing, Mountain View-based Search Party and Go10,000.com. He introduced the concept of travel meta search into the Chinese market. Prior to that, George worked for Fortune 500 clients at Altio, one of the earliest B2B distribution platform for hotels, world rests, and as well as a deep knowledge working with international hotel chains in US and China. Welcome, Mr. George, and the floor is all yours. You could first do a presentation and we'll have a few questions for you, and then the audience can also ask you questions. Over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. And hello, everybody.
Hi, sir.
On the UFTAA.
I've requested a reassessment.
Okay, I'll continue. Okay. So first of all, happy World Tourism Day to everybody. This is a great celebration for all of us under this very special circumstance. So what I want to do today is to give you a quick update on what is happening in China in the travel market, and then tell you some of the things that we're doing and some suggestions on what we've done to further accelerate.
I spoke to.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. 1 sec. Everybody, please put yourself on mute.
Because you know, the Price Waterhouse
Everybody
makes mistakes.
One second.
So we have someone actually talking on the phone or something.
It's not, no problem.
All right. Okay. I think we're better now. All right. So first of all, the pandemic has affected the tourism industry as badly as everywhere else. The pandemic itself is relatively well under control in China. We haven't seen much cases in the past year or so. Most recently, we have 2 small flare-ups. Now we're seeing about 30 to 50 cases a day in 2 provinces, and the rest of the country are case-free. So the pandemic is relatively well under control domestically. And vaccination rates is also quite impressive. We're now over 70%. 70% for a country with 1.4 billion people in a relatively short period of time. So that is all, positive development. And as a result of that, domestic travel has been recovering very, very healthily. I'll give you a couple indicators. The most recent public holiday was the Mid-Autumn Festival, which happened about a week ago. The overall tourism volume, domestic travel, was up to about 87% of 2019 levels. So almost up to 90%. And for some months in the past year, we were hitting 90% of 2019 levels for domestic travel. The only thing is that the situation is not quite stable because of the zero case policy that the country is still adhering to very strictly. So whenever there's a small flare up, even domestic tourism gets affected. So it's not a very stable situation. Although we're, domestically, we're very much back to normal. And another indicator is from the leading travel company in China, Trip.com. This is the largest OTA in China and one of the largest OTAs in the world. In their most recent financial report for Q2, they have reported double-digit growth for domestic hotel and air bookings, GMV, from 2019 levels. That's 10 to 15% more domestic air and hotel volume than 2019 levels. That's pretty significant if you think about it under the circumstances. So domestic travel, we're doing relatively well. A lot of the travel agencies who are specializing, DMCs and tour operators who are specializing in inbound and outbound have switched focus to domestic travel and creating new products. This is also good news for colleagues everywhere in the world. If you are innovative enough, if you keep a positive attitude, you can create new products for the consumers. And one of the most impressive destinations in China that have attracted huge amounts of domestic tourism is Xinjiang. It's actually, I read a recent report to say Xinjiang is now one of the largest inbound destinations in the world. Actually receives more tourists than many, many countries in the world does right now. So that is the domestic situation, which is going relatively well. But international travel is essentially non-existent because of the zero case policy. The country is still discouraging our citizens to travel abroad for anything but essential travel and emergency travel. So people, having their passports expired during the pandemic, they can't even get their passports renewed because it is not encouraged for them to travel outside of the country. So it's very difficult. Outbound is essentially non-existent. Although some destinations have opened up for Chinese, if you consider the country, probably about 1 billion people has been fully vaccinated and they can travel. They can travel to many destinations who will take fully vaccinated travelers, US included, starting in November, and UK maybe very soon, and other destinations, Thailand, especially the island destinations like Phuket. So there are many destinations that are receiving, that are welcoming Chinese, but there are two barriers. The first barrier is the policy. The country is not encouraging tourism, outbound tourism at the moment. And secondly, it has the policy of quarantine. We used to have a 14-day quarantine policy upon returning back to China or entering China from any foreign country. Now, for certain part of the country, that has been extended to 21 days. And if you consider, if you're going anywhere for a trip and coming back into the country, you have to quarantine in a hotel for 21 days, that's going to discourage most people to leave the country. Inbound travel is also essentially non-existent because of the current quarantine policies. So, both inbound and outbound are basically putting on hold. When will this change? It's very difficult to say. We're looking for two key events that will give us some indication on when the policy will be eased. One is Winter Olympics, which is happening in Beijing in March of next year. We're waiting to see how open the country will be during the games. Are we only opening to athletes and delegates, or are we also opening to some inbound visitors to watch the games? So that's a indication we're watching very carefully on. So Tokyo provided a model for not completely opening but still having a game successfully run. So we're looking to see if China will be more open than Tokyo or not. So that's the first indication we're looking for. The second indication we're looking for are the opening of key outbound destination markets. For example, US is opening to Chinese travelers in November. Anybody who's fully vaccinated will be able to travel to the US. Even with the Chinese vaccine, they are recognized. UK will be opening soon, as I have mentioned. I think this unilateral openings will be very difficult to sustain. So the pressure will be on China to open up when more and more destinations are opening up. And I think, with the vaccination rates going from 70%, maybe going all the way up to, 80, 90%, that is fully expected. Very soon we're going to reach that level. Maybe at that point, the policy will be eased, and then we'll start to see some inbound and outbound travel. So what can destinations do at this moment? You have been enjoying the benefit of outbound Chinese tourism for many years, but now this is completely stopped. So what can you do? Is there anything you can do? First of all, I think you should try to participate in many of the B2B activities that are being organized by NTOs and DMOs and travel associations like this one. There are many events like this and online trade shows, like full-fledged online trade shows with exhibition, with one-on-one meetings and all that kind of activities. I think these are helpful for you to understand what's happening with your counterparts in China. What are they thinking about new products post-pandemic? You've heard some of the kind of changes that your vice president has mentioned in the beginning. But what are some of the changes that you should expect from the Chinese consumers post-pandemic? There will be some significant changes. For example, more and more people will be more health conscious. How do you communicate your safety and health precaution measures at your hotels, at your destination? how do you make outdoor activities more available to the Chinese consumers? Now, domestic travel, people are doing a lot of outdoor activities, for the concern of safety and health, right? They started to do RVs and started to do camping domestically. Once this started, when they start to travel abroad, they will be doing the similar activities in other destinations. Are you ready for them? Do you have, camping trips at your destinations? Do you have RV trips? Do you have more self-driving? Do you expect more FIT travel out of China than group travel? Those are some of the changes that you should expect post-pandemic. So keep the communication open as much as you can with your Chinese colleagues. There are many, many opportunities. Many European destinations, many Asian NTOs, even North American NTOs and DMOs are organizing these activities. Try to get on board. If not for business, but for just preparing for the recovery and keep your relationships going. I think in the beginning, your vice president also mentioned the word CRM. This is also a good way for you to refresh your database of your Chinese partners to see who is still around, who is still active, who's ready to work with you as soon as the policy changes, right? So I think additionally, if you can, as travel associations, many of you are leaders of large travel associations in your country. Try to influence your government, your NTO, to increase the communication with Chinese consumers. This is not in the traditional travel marketing where we're pushing travel products, we're introducing itineraries. I think there should be more PR efforts geared towards the Chinese consumers. PR, meaning, talk about how the pandemic is being handled in your country. Talk about the recovery of tourism in your country, even when there are still fairly big numbers of cases happening each day based on the Chinese standards. Just let us know, let the Chinese consumers know how your fellow countrymen are handling the pandemic. Those messages will ease the concerns of the Chinese consumers. So, as soon as the policy change, the consumer sentiment will be ready for outbound travel, right? You don't want to, wait until the policy change and then you start to have to deal with a consumer sentiment, because consumers are still very much concerned about the health and safety situation in many destinations. So if you can do more in that regard in advance, try to communicate. So it's safe, vaccination rates has been up. Although there are cases, but we have, measures to help you, preventing from getting infected. All that kind of communication will be very helpful and will get your destination ready to welcome the Chinese consumers as soon as the policy changes in China. So that's all I have to share with you. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. I would request all those who have questions, if you're putting them in the chat box, I'm monitoring the box and I shall ask this question on your behalf. And we have another speaker who's going to be briefly with us, and then we'll give you ample time for a Q&A to make this a truly learning experience. Mr. George, you made two very important points. Number one, I'm very fascinated by what you talked about domestic tourism in China, which seems to be a trend across the world, that sustainability is now slowly getting derived from domestic tourism than the tourism of the 2019s and 18s and whatever. And you mentioned Trip.com with a higher percentage of profits than they had declared in 2019. The other point you made was the outbound and inbound is almost nil. It's insignificant. So, and you were very kind to suggest to the world what kind of trends they need to adapt to, keeping in contact with the Chinese customers, educate them. But Mr. George, when do you think, in your opinion, all this would come back to normalcy? Is there Is there a sunset that we can see?
It's very difficult to predict. I think, one thing is the opening up by the destination countries, which is start to happen. It's very encouraging to see US opening up. And it's very, very encouraging to see many destinations opening up to Chinese consumers. The key is, when will the Chinese government ease their policy on both inbound and outbound? It's very difficult to predict. Based on our conversations with people in the industry, nobody is predicting recovery before Q3 of 2023. That's the beginning of recovery for inbound and outbound. So I would say, maybe we'll see some kind of ease of the policy in the middle of next year, and by Q3 and Q4 it start opening up. But in terms of for the whole, volume, outbound volume to go back to 1.4 billion trips, 140 million trips, a year, that's going to take a while.
Oh, okay. Some of us in UFTAA believe that 22 would be a good year and 23 would be the boom year. I'm talking about a global perspective, not just China, that we need to be prepared for 2023 today. Otherwise, we can't optimize or take that advantage of 2023 boom. What do you think about this global perspective?
I think global recovery, as far as we can see, are probably going to be happening sooner than China inbound and outbound. Cross-border travel from other countries will recover sooner. It has already started to recover. But because of our zero case policy, I think this is going to take a while for us to, change the policy, get the consumer sentiment changed to, a way of you can travel to a destination where there's still cases or significant cases happening. There's some education that needs to be done to sort of travel with COVID, if you will. So I think it's going to definitely be later than the rest of the world.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We'll wait for the questions to come in. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our final speaker for today, another very brilliant leader and someone whose profile is absolutely fantastic. We have with us all the way from Dominican Republic and now a travel industry leader in the US. We would like to present before you our speaker, who is Patricia Shahin. Patricia, we're trying to locate you so that we can spotlight you. Patricia, where are you, Patricia?
Can you see me now?
Yeah, you are spotted.
Yes, Yossi, can you please spotlight?
Done. She's in the center.
Okay. Well, good day, everybody. And thank you so much for your introduction, Sunil. My name is Patricia.
You, Patricia. Sorry. I want to talk about you, but I'm just trying to spotlight you so that as I speak about you, our attendees would be able to see you. I'm so sorry about this. There you are.
Okay, well, thank you so much and good day, everybody. And I appreciate this invitation and happy World International Tourism Day to all of you. I have been in this industry for over 20 years now. I began my career in the Dominican Republic, but most of my working life, I have been in the United States in different cities, working in a variety of segments within the industry for both leisure, corporate travel, meetings, incentives, and events. So I'm looking forward to sharing my perspective with all of you. I will use notes because I think I can say more in the very limited time, sharing some dashboards and numbers. So give me just a second before I get started.
Patricia, can I say a few words about you if you're okay?
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay, dear friends, Patricia Shahin has been born and raised in the Dominican Republic. She completed a bachelor's degree in marketing management and then moved to United States for an internship, followed by a master's degree in business administration. She was drawn to the travel industry when she started working for the Ministry of Tourism of Dominican Republic about 20 years ago. She was an admin at the Office of International Affairs in Santo Domingo, and over the years moved within the organization, left twice, and then rejoined to become the director of Dominican Republic Tourism Office in Chicago in 2007. After that, for over 8 years, she focused on strategies that would help elevate the destination's image, support luxury development, and promote sustainable tourism practices. This is how incentive travel became an integral part of her strategy and defined her career path. Her position at Pacific World, she finds herself helping to design incentive travel experiences for clients around the world. Most recently with Pacific World, they took a group of clients to experience Barcelona from the sky through a rooftop hopping experience. When Patricia is not at work, her passion is travel, immersing herself into new cultural experiences through people. Her greatest source of pride in her career is the fact that she is well-rounded, worked in different disciplines from destination marketing to hotel group sales, and now has her own business and working on the DMC side on behalf of Pacific World and other clients. What a wonderful pleasure it is for us to have you, Patricia. It's yours now.
Well, thank you so much for such a kind introduction. And let me just clarify that Pacific World is no longer in existence. Unfortunately, it was one of the casualties for COVID-19, but I continue to represent a wide collection of destination management companies all across Latin America for the US. And I also represent and consult departments of tourism, including Naples, Florida, as well as the Department of Tourism of Curacao. So, thank you so much, and looking forward to sharing our insights from our North American perspective, especially from the US, which is where I reside. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. A little bit of a geek when it comes to presentations, and I feel like I can say more if I can show my screen in the limited time that we have remaining. So can you see my screen now?
Yes,
so I was asked to speak about rejuvenating travel and tourism. So I'm going to try to be as positive as possible. And why not? We're going through an exciting time. And like Fernando said, compared to last year, we are in a much, much better place. And the trend is to continue into this direction. But before getting started, I want to give you a snapshot of what has been happening here in the United States with this brief video. Let me just make sure that you can hear the sound. Share sound. Okay, here we go.
We need to hunker down and get through this winter.
But the reality is we can't ask small businesses to bear the brunt of this. Congress has to step in here.
Congress tonight now racing to vote on a new $900 billion stimulus relief package, the first one since March.
So let's see, how can I get super excited with this video because it shows the resilience that makes this amazing country what it is and what it has always been. In spite of all the challenges and all the losses, we're looking forward to the future, working together. And I'm here to first kind of share a little bit about progress. When we look at, how the vaccination process has been moving forward in the United States, in spite of the challenges and the polarizing opinions about their citizens, today, about 55.9% of our population has been fully vaccinated. Which is still a lot higher than the rest of the world. There has been more than 389 million doses already given, and we continue the path, toward recovery. About 183 million people fully vaccinated. And then for Canada, that number looks even higher in terms of percentages, even though Canadians have been more conservative when it comes to their travel restrictions. They basically recently opened early September to the rest of the world. I believe that when you look at the percentage of the population that has been fully vaccinated, we're looking at a 71%, with more than 55.7 million doses given. So we are definitely moving forward in both Canada and the United States to be able to welcome visitors safely. And then basically the requirements are the same. Both countries require international visitors to be fully vaccinated and require a COVID test upon arrival that must have been taken within 72 hours prior to arrival. This is just a snapshot as how, both of these countries look in relationship to the rest of the world. As you can see from these figures, it's looking good. Now let's talk a little bit about trends. I think that some of my fellow panelists have spoken about all of these trends, and it's interesting to see how every country embraced this pandemic. Obviously, everybody has enhanced the safety and health protocols, which I think it's actually a good trend with or without COVID. I think some of these protocols are actually here to stay. And that's a good thing because it makes all passengers to feel more comfortable when they're traveling. Those safety protocols, although sometimes may seem like a challenge, there is a reason why they have to be embraced because we need to learn how to travel, how to live with this pandemic, and how to do it safely. The technology has been my favorite part of this pandemic because I think that we all had been forced to take a crash course on how to embrace technology. And when I say technology, I speak about, several solutions, from the fact that we're having this meeting right now on Zoom, which I guess we had before, but I think we all have mastered the ability to communicate virtually from all over the world and to meet. And not only the tools have become more sophisticated, but all of us have become more avid at how to use and implement this technology. It's also about touchless points. Wherever we travel, now you don't need to touch anything. And these are trends that, again, are here to stay, are making the travel experience more seamless. And even though they came as a result of COVID, I feel like they're going to bring a lot of benefits when it comes to travel around the world. So in the US, obviously, we have been really quick to adopt all of these technology solutions. A great focus on sustainability. It is reflected upon many aspects of the industry. I mean, first of all, we are staying domestic. We are staying local. We are supporting our local businesses. And I think that is, again, a world trend. Some people want to reduce their emissions and they're preferring to travel by car or by train versus taking a flight, especially the new generation, which is a lot more in tune with environment, and we're all aiming not only to be sustainable but to leave a positive footprint everywhere we go. At this point, it's also good for the travel agent community. I think we want to support the small businesses, but not only because of that, but because I feel like so many people was in trouble when COVID hit, that they learned to appreciate once again the value of working with travel advisors. So the role of travel advisors have become more prominent since COVID, and that is definitely good news, especially for the younger generation that was relying more on online bookings and sales. So, that is just, again, another example of the practice of sustainability. Road trips and domestic travels are here to stay, and good. Very, very happy to see that also Americans are traveling wherever they can, that there aren't restrictions. Destinations, for instance, like Dubai and Greece, welcome many American visitors just because they didn't have the restrictions that other countries did. But by the most part, when it comes to international, Americans are traveling to Mexico and the Caribbean, not only because they're hassle-free, when it comes to their entry requirements, but because they're close. And that is the trend for the short term. People are traveling first within their own countries or within their own regions. And that is definitely good news. I am a businesswoman, and I am booking a lot of business to Mexico and the Dominican Republic, and that's good news. The travel insurance sales have increased. Of course, we're all a little bit nervous about what's going to happen when we travel. There's a lot of uncertainty, so definitely. And I want to also note that there is an enthusiasm gap. There are two types of travelers in the United States, whether it's based on their personal preference, their own beliefs about the vaccine, or their political affiliations. You've got the explorers and the homebodies. The explorers are normally younger, based on a study, mainly even men are more adventurous when it comes to the concerns that travelers have when they travel. So they are the ones that are fueling the development of our industry. They're the ones who are taking the risks, that are traveling and coming back, sharing their experience and feeling more confident about traveling. They're really willing to travel again soon versus, the homebodies that are still concerned about what's going to happen. So sometimes the statistics are going to be, heavily impacted by the type of audience that we are addressing. And that has a lot to do when you are developing your sales and marketing strategies. Who do you target based on these facts, based on this enthusiasm gap? It's always something to take into consideration. And obviously, younger generations are more of a risk taker, also because of what's at stake for them. In terms of what are we doing, I think the travel industry in the United States was super quick to react. There has been a lot of travel industry relief resources available through a strong coalition between government, industry, airlines, hotels, the private sector, and individuals itself, to become united as a single voice and create advocacy. And because of that, a lot of these groups have been pushing for example, easing the restrictions for international travel. And, as a result of that, for instance, we now celebrate the fact that in November, at some point, we are easing the access to Europeans, people from the UK and many other countries that were still unable to travel to the United States. So that's coming very soon, and that's going to be the beginning of the reactivation for the international travel, especially long haul, which we're all looking forward to it. So, we got to celebrate our victories, and definitely that was one that we were all looking forward to it. Another trend and action is that we have seen more flexible terms when it comes to bookings for hotels, for airlines, because we need to understand that we live in a world that's changing fast and fast. And in the past, what used to be very, very rigid restrictions that are becoming more flexible. And again, as I explained, industry coalitions have been driving and advocating in behalf of our industry. From the very beginning, they developed advertising and public relation campaigns to also motivate the consumer to travel when they were afraid to do that. Even when everything was in lockdown, they will promote people to start making plans or start dreaming about the future. So I'm going to share a little bit of those efforts so that you see some of the things that the industry is doing by the U.S. Travel Association.
Public health officials are making an urgent plea to all Americans to avoid the airports, avoid travel altogether, and stay home.
Many seeing an average of just 39 passengers per flight.
I have no plans. I'm not going anywhere. What can we encourage people to do that's both safe for them and yet productive for the industry?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, Patricia, very well.
All right. I don't know what happened, if it was my internet connection, but I'm going to skip and just go to the next slide because my video stopped for some reason. And my cat has been trying to interject this presentation, so my apologies. So a lot of you have been asking about when things are going to come back to 2019 levels. And I'm going to share two pieces of information, one from Deloitte. And this one is based on corporate travel, which obviously has been even more hard hit in comparison to the leisure travel, because leisure travel is already picking up in here from the very beginning, because obviously individuals can travel at their own risk. But when it comes to the business side, and we tend to be a little bit more conservative. The blue line is showing a scenario where there is a strong return, and those were based on things like whether, when what was the U.S. going to be opening to the rest of the world, which just happened. So we're moving into the direction of a strong return. Also, it will depend on whether there's going to be another outbreak or what happens with the Delta variant. So the blue line, it's a positive, the best case scenario. And the worst case scenario will be the green line if we were to have a weak return based on more restrictions and more spread of the virus unexpectedly. But so far, I think we're dancing on the blue line, which is, again, very, very good news. The path to recovery, it's going to be determined when it comes to business travel to these different triggers or variables, which is whether it's going to be sustainable low infection rates, how the general population vaccination percent goes, which is going well, the reopening of the client offices. Also, it's a big trigger when it comes to business travel, and the reopening of the own offices, as well as the easing of quarantine requirements. Now, this is another graphic that I wanted to share, which is a great statistic in partnership with 20 different points of data in Oxford School of Economics, where you could see the travel forecast for the next 5 years. And according to this chart, when it comes to the total travel spending, we are not going to be at the levels of, well, we're almost going to be at that level for 2023, okay, here in the United States. But when you look at the different sites, whether it's domestic and leisure, those numbers, of course, are going to be different depending on whether it's domestic or international travel. So, and this is not just business travel, this is travel industry as a whole. So this is the forecast by the U.S. Travel Association as of last month. And then this is in total number of spending. How much is the forecast in base of spending versus in terms of percentages compared to 2019. So I hope that I can share a lot of information through these graphics because I don't think we have that much time. But again, I think that the future looks bright. I think that the United States has been resilient when it comes to the travel industry. Americans love traveling, and we have seen that domestically, the hotel occupancy rates, the flights are returning, everything is coming back to a certain level of normalcy, especially for those travelers who are not afraid to travel. So I assume that by next year, especially since I specialize on promoting international travel, I have seen the demand already upticking for 2022. And while 2022 might not be 2019, it's going to be a great year, much better than 2021. So I'm excited about the future. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Looking forward to being an active part of this panel and answering any questions.
Thank you very much, Patricia, for your very, very informative and very educative presentation. It's good to see that from the charts you depict 2019 with 100% come back in 2024 and possibly a large part of it in 2023. And I think that's what the whole world is looking at. Well, it's question time now. Would any one of you desire to asking questions? The floor is open, please.
Yeah, this is Yossi.
Yeah, Yossi, go ahead, Yossi.
First of all, great presentation. Give a lot of stuff to think about. I have a question. With regard to China, what I was happy to hear that they adopt new business model and start doing business otherwise from the inbound. I would appreciate if you can elaborate a little bit more on this. With regards to restrictions, I think one of the problems is not the corona, is the government. I mean, 1.5 years after we start this crisis, and there is no one united voice across the world about what is vaccination passport, the restrictions, kind of a test or whatever. I mean, each and every country, they have their own procedure and protocol, which is crazy. The corona is not the issue here, but the ego of the leaders is the issue. And I think, and this is a call to you, Mr. President, and to us all, maybe to raise a global voice through UFTAA and call government to start and act, I mean, as expected during a crisis, and not each and everyone in the room here, if he wants to travel to any place, he needs to read a different book to understand what this country wants from him. So this one is highly important as well. With regard to insurance, I want to give two examples from Israel. First of all, we have an insurance as association that we find a contract that covers the tourist, whatever gap he has in his insurance policy, which will not cover, including, for example, if he need to rearrange his ticket flight, he's covered by $3,000. If he needs to go to quarantine, from the third day, it will be paid. If you need to go to hospital, same. We did it with some company from the States, by the way, that the end of the process is belong to Warren Buffett. And the cost, I'm telling you that because the cost is $6 for 28 days per tourist. So I think it's interesting if you can assure whoever is coming to your country that is covered also by you as a tour operators is important. And the last thing, we developed a stamp for our member saying that this member with his name, Israel Safe Protocol, so people will know they are being in a certain level of professionalism with regards to how to handle tourists if they're coming. So many of our members are using this stamp to put it in the internet, whatever. So I encourage you to do the same, because if you go to some international bodies, they are charging like crazy. That's it. And the one thing that we are all missing in this room, and is happening very good in China, that the Chinese agents adopt a new business model. They re-innovate their product. It was mentioned, if I can hear a little bit more about this. And again, both of you appreciate it, and very good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Yossi. Mr. George, your response.
All right. So, the Chinese travel agencies in the beginning, like everybody, was in shock. Then very quickly, when the pandemic domestically are put under control, they started to think of ways to kind of regenerate some business. One of the kind of changes, as I mentioned, was to switch from inbound and outbound to domestic. And that change actually helped improve the quality of the products for domestic travel, because these are mostly high-end travel agencies. They used to serve high-end customers going to foreign destinations. Obviously, the per passenger expenses are much higher than a domestic trip. So those are the more affluent segment. So these are the agencies that were serving the more affluent segment. Now they're serving the domestic market. Obviously, the same people who used to travel abroad now are traveling domestically. So they're actually improving the domestic travel products in many destinations. Pricing are higher, but the overall quality are much, much better. Some of the hotels are doing great, especially high-end hotels. It's very difficult to book. Some of the high-end hotels. We're having another public holiday coming up, the National Day holiday, which is a 7-day break, 7-day vacation. And if you want to go to one of the more popular tourism cities, it will be very difficult for you to book a high-end hotel because they're mostly full. The other thing that they have changed or learned to change is using various new technologies, like has been mentioned quite a few times. They have started to sell coupons, for example, online. So this is hotel coupons you can buy, you pay, and then you can use at a later date, right? That helps with the cash flow quite a bit. That's also adopted by the big OTAs like Ctrip. I don't know if you saw stories about the CEO of Citrip, James Leong, putting on costumes and doing live streaming, throughout the country. He travels to many parts of the country and doing live streamings and playing characters out of, Chinese novels and traditional books and popular characters from movies and things like that to get people's attention. And he generated so much business. Now streaming is a business model, is a business unit at trip.com now. So there's a lot of innovation that have happened. The other thing that you will see is some of the travel agencies have gone into producing great content. They do virtual tours. They do what we call silent streaming. This will be a streaming session of the sunrise somewhere for a 3-hour streaming with just background music, and people are interested in watching those extremely long silent streamings. And towards the end of streaming, obviously they will introduce some of the kind of products, some of the call to actions that you can follow up with. So a lot of innovations happening, which is, I think, will be good for the industry post-pandemic. This is forced upon us, right? But all of us are taking the initiative to actually innovate and try to pull ourselves out of the trouble we're in right now.
First of all, it's really inspiring, and I will request my president to request you maybe to organize the Zoom meeting when we can see more the examples of what you just mentioned, because I believe that you in China are much more enhanced than the rest of the world in re-innovating the industry. And this is very interesting. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Actually, Yossi, I'll remain connected with Mr. Kao and try to identify an opportunity that you just mentioned, because we can learn from the innovations that's happening in the Chinese industry. Patricia, do you have any comments to make on Yossi's intervention? Okay. Anybody else would like to come in at this point of time? You could put up in the reactions, you can raise your hand and we'll allow you to address a question to our speakers. Who's that, please?
Yes, me, Yusuf. Salama.
Yes, Yusuf, go ahead. Go ahead, Yusuf. I'm trying to locate you, but go ahead and speak.
I'm here all the time. I just like to ask who represent Israel, travel agent and president as well. What's the process next time for open the country for tourism? Because we have several times we have news that the border will be open for tourism. Then they change, then they say now it will be in September, then it will be in October. So we don't have a clear information. We mentioned that every country have a procedure to open the country, and every country have some rules for coronavirus and all of this PCR test and all. But it's clear, yeah, when you ask the operation, when it will be open, we have clear information, and we have clear information about what's the document paper the country will need to enter the country. But then now some of the country, we don't have a clear information for when it will open and when is the document they ask about tourists to come to the country. So if they can help with a clear information about the schedule time, the country will be open. Like example, in Egypt, our country is open for the tourism, and there is no specific document they need. They do PCR test once upon arrival with the visa, and there is no any document say, or any government didn't ask for a vaccinated for tourists. They just need a PCR test when they arrive. They do it in Egypt. And it's open for all the nationality around the whole world. So I need just a clear information, because all of you are here. for all the countries, any clear information about what's going to happen in the next few months is if we success to open or not? Thank you.
You're talking about, you ask about Israel, or?
I ask about Israel, about Israel and all the countries. No, but
the words that you just said is what I'm saying to the Prime Minister and my minister.
Yes, yes.
Clarity is forbidden in our government.
Yes.
They don't use clarity or common sense. Yes. And it's priceless the way you put it, because it's like you are one of us talking to the government officers here. The management is very, very, I will not say the word, but the clarity is not part of the, but we now going to be more open, especially with Egypt through the air. If it's going through the land, it's still going to be a problem. Going through Taba, the border are open mainly for Israeli to travel to Sinai.
Yes,
but the other way around, it's problematic. But through the air, especially now when there is flights that going to out of the shore of Sinai, I think it's gonna work better. And I cannot thank you enough for you just ask me, because it reflects exactly what we are trying to say to our government.
Really, I ask you because Egypt, is very related with Israel. It's very related.
Absolutely.
So once you open for tourism, Egypt as well, because mostly around 40% of tourists in Egypt, they come from Israel, through the Holy Land to Egypt and Israel.
As I said, the Ministry of Economy, the lady, is about to travel to Egypt, and she requested me to be there in the delegation with her. So once I know the dates, we also discuss this when we will be in Egypt, and I appreciate your question.
Thank you so much. I appreciate also your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
We now have a hand going up from Mr. Lokesh Betaya. Go ahead, Lokesh. Who's your question addressed to? Please share the name.
Mr. President, this is to you and your committee. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. I'm sorry for the delay in joining the meeting. As you know, we all had a lot of functions happening in India on the World Tourism Day. Having said that, in India, we have seen the boom in domestic tourism, just like how my friend from China was telling you. And in spite of the second doses of vaccine having been taken long time back, as early as June, July, by most of the traveling public, unfortunately, even domestically, each state government has got its own protocol. Similarly, on a global platform, we have many countries opening up to some of the nationals, even including Indian nationals. And there is a huge rush from India on the outbound sector to places like Spain, France, Croatia, UAE, etc., etc. Unfortunately, each country has got a different protocol. Basically, what we request UFTAA to do is, you have a WHO recognized vaccine. Once these double shots have been taken, in line with the standards set by the World Health Organization, why don't we engage IATA through UFTAA and ECTA or through WTAA collectively? Why don't we, why don't we pressurize the government, which is opened up? Let's not talk about those who are not willing to open up or those who have constraints in opening up. They have their own reasons. Those who have opened up, we should have a uniform protocol, just like you used to have a yellow booklet, World Health Organization booklet, where we used to get the stampings done, etc., etc. Today we are far more superior in technology. All we need is something called as a health passport for vaccines, and which is online and which is associated with the PNR booking reference. As soon as you, just like we add the API as information, etc., etc., it is just at a click of a button. Any immigration authority can see whether this person is doubly vaccinated, whether you want to do a RT-PCR, but let us have one sort of uniform thing. I mean, it may be difficult, but it is not impossible. It's our approach which is needed, and we request UFTA, Mr. President, through you and your team, to lead us forward.
Thank you very much, Lokesh. You are aware about what happened in our AGM. We have adopted a resolution that is now widely circulated across the world, and we continue to follow up. That is called the vaccine equity. So UFTA has called it the vaccine equity because we feel there's still a chaotic response from some parts of the world where some vaccinations that are given in some large countries are not recognized by the other countries, and that creates a vacuum. So vaccine equity has been UFTA's stand, and we will continue to pursue that. We are not giving it up, and your point is well taken, because if we are looking at a more rapid growth in tourism, then I think there have to be user-friendly laws. You can't have a law which denies tourism but promotes tourism. And I think your point is well taken. Thank you very much.
The problem is the bureaucrats fall in love with the power they got through this process, and they cannot let go. Simply as that.
Lokesh, we did write to some airlines. We've had interaction with them on some challenges that I've faced. And I have written communication from the airlines to say that this is not an airline policy. This is the policy of a government of another country, which is imposed on us to impose it on customers now. This seems to be a growing response from several airlines. If you see an airline circular coming in about travel to X country, it's not the airline's law. Airline is being asked to impose this. And that's the only way the airline can fly into another country. So that's how the scenario is. So I think it's a matter beyond IATA and beyond the airlines as far as within the ambit of IATA is concerned. But what IATA can do is support us by talking to governments, because IATA has more access in that region than associations, and we shall certainly follow up with the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's getting closer to 7, but if anybody's got a question here to our speakers, let us know. You can come in to say you're ready with a question, and we'll spotlight you right away. Seeing none, I would only say it's just getting closer to 7, and it's been such a splendid opportunity for UFTA to present this to you. Patricia, if you so desire that your presentation should be sent to our national associations. UFTA is a federation of national associations, and you will find most of those who've joined us are the officers of different associations of UFTA. So we are a federation, and therefore we are not looking at the mass numbers. We are looking at the industry leadership participating, because this industry leadership can take these discussions to their members. So if you so desire, it would be a pleasure for us to circulate your write-up or presentation, and on your behalf, we would be happy to do it. Thank you, Patricia.
Absolutely. I will share the presentation with you, and you can rest with some people have already asked me for it. So I'll send you my entire presentation on PowerPoint, then you can share to the rest of the team.
Thank you, Patricia. Mr. George, any closing remarks from you, Mr. George?
No, except for thank you for the invitation. And it's really a pleasure to spend a World Tourism Day with all of you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Yossi, for hosting all of us. Our profuse thanks to our speakers, Patricia Shahin, George Cao, and Fernando Campion, and also our acknowledgements to our Vice President, Mr. Yossi Patel, for his presentation, to all the board members of UFTA who've joined us, and of course to the President of TURSAB, Mr. Firoz Bakligaya. All the very best, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great year ahead. Keep your inspiration active, keep your motivation loud. It's not the end of the world, it's the beginning of a new world. And for that, you have to create a new person within you. I think that innovation is required for all of us to evolve to optimize the tomorrow that's coming in. But it's quite clear from all the speakers that it's not too far, that we would come back to normalcy. And thank you very much. All the very best. Thank you very much for joining this
Thank
evening.
you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Happy
Thank
birthday.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.